This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
While we're talking about some good high-end options, it's pretty pedestrian once you get through about 25 or so running backs. And so you got to be so much more mindful that the cliff does take place in your draft at running back, much more so than it does at wide receiver, where there are 40, 45 options that you could talk yourself into having pretty good seasons this year.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I was that confused trying to figure out why Cameron Young isn't as good as he should be, because we've seen all the flashes. Like at some point of his career, he's been elite at something. Like he's been elite at putting this year. He's been an elite iron player. He's been an elite driver of the golf ball. So check out this chart I had to get.
We got a chart.
Look at this chart that I had to come up with.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
An HRR, parlay, a combo that you want to do. I generally prefer away teams and players that hit at the top of the lineup or in the top half, just because you are guaranteed just that extra plate appearance here or there. How many times, throughout the season, I've been like, listen, if this guy gets on, he will have one more at bat in the ninth inning. And if he doesn't get there, he doesn't get there. If you just take them that's placed higher, they're going to be in a spot to cash that bag.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Will John Gruden's lawsuit against the NFL reach the Supreme Court? Plus, Texas opens the college football season ranked #1 for the very first time. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from FOS Studios in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington, and thank you guys so much for joining us each and every weekday. We are chatting the biggest stories happening in the business and culture of sports. We have lots of football talk today because football's back. We're also chatting with James Cook's agent on the Bills running backs contract negotiations and what's wrong with the NFLPA. But first, let's dive into the headlines in the shoot-around.
Yeah, and our only non-football story today. Let's start in the NBA as the league revealed its opening tip-off a few days ago, and now we know the other matchups in the first week. Cooper Flagg's first game for the Mavs will be October 22nd against Wemby and the Spurs. We're also going to see a finals rematch between the Thunder and the Pacers the next day on the 23rd. Meanwhile, the NBA will have a quadruple header on NBC and Peacock on Martin Luther King Day, January the 19th, headlined by the Thunder taking on the Cavs and Cooper Flagg's first game at the Garden against the Knicks. And the NBA going to release its full schedule Thursday, August the 14th. Interesting game so far. I'm into these.
Not that I'm counting, but we are 70 days into opening day of that doubleheader for the NBA. And we're getting into the 80th season. They continue to get things right. I know I talked about this in the show yesterday, but as you're promoting LeBron James in his historic moment of becoming the first player in the NBA to play 23 seasons, you're also having the number 1 and 2 picks from the draft in Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper, of course, Wemby as well in the Spurs, going head to head. So continuing to show their faces, connecting the brands, but then also with the MLK Day. I mean, this will be the 40th consecutive year of it, and they do such a tremendous job of rolling out the games, great matchups, community events, just really continuing to move the needle and continuing to push the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Well, especially given the fact that the NFL is encroached on Christmas Day, so now MLK Day is all the NBA.
One league that gets it right.
All right, meanwhile, Travis Kelce graces the cover of GQ and even admits his focus last season was not entirely on football. Surprising. He tells the mag, quote, "I think I might have slipped a little bit because I did have a little bit more focus in trying to set myself up for opportunities that came up and was excited to venture into a new world of acting and being an entertainer." He goes on to say, quote, "I feel like these past 2 years haven't been up to my standards." Meanwhile, his girlfriend Taylor Swift appeared on his New Heights podcast with his brother Jason and announced her 12th studio album. It's called The Life of a Showgirl.
We will never refer to her as Travis Kelce's girlfriend.
No.
He is Taylor Swift's boyfriend. But I will say,
yes.
for Travis Kelce, where he's at in his career, this actually makes sense, though. He's in his he's like 35. You're nearing retirement. It's time to start focusing on what's next. But then on the other side, for Travis and for Taylor, they continue to boost their careers through their relationship alone. Sales, the buzz, dropping a new album. So bravo to them, because they're continuing to lean into not only their relationship on a bigger, more intimate, personal level, with her being on new heights with him and Jason, but also continuing to just kind of live their best lives. And I'm all for it. You're 35. Enjoy your life.
He says she's a big football fan. She even takes interest in the injury reports.
Correct. So enjoy having these moments together.
All right. Elsewhere, ESPN NFL host and reporter Laura Rutledge will join Lisa Salters as permanent sideline reporters for the all 20 Monday Night Football games on ESPN and ABC, joining the top team of Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Now, Rutledge's NFL live duties on ESPN will still stay the same. ESPN also added Katie George and Peter Schrager to its game coverage as well, which we expected with Schrager when he went to the network.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have the two sideline reporters. I've been on the sidelines for football games. It's hard. And so when you have two able to focus on their respective sidelines, well done. And also Lisa Salters has been the lead NFL sideline reporter since 2015. So bringing her back in this role, as well as Laura and some others, it's going to make for an exciting football season.
All right. Well, former NFL coach John Gruden scored a big win in his long legal battle against the NFL. That is, the Nevada Supreme Court ruled in his favor in his case, alleging that the league and Commissioner Goodell leaked controversial emails that led to his resignation as head coach of the Raiders. So what does this court ruling mean for him, and could it go to the Supreme Court? Let's take a look at our main event. All right, let's bring in sports and entertainment attorney Dan Lash. So Dan, explained exactly what the court decided in this Gruden case here.
Yeah, so the court basically decided that this case will not be fought in an arbitration form, that this will actually go to open court. And I think that's probably the biggest part that people are missing here. It's not that Gruden has won the case and Gruden's going to get some large stack of money. It's that Gruden can have his day in court and can, ask the tough questions of other owners, of other teams, of Goodell. And I think that's really important, because in arbitration, Goodell, right, in theory, is the judge, jury, and executioner. And now it's, in theory, a fair forum for Gruden to fight his battle here.
And with John Gruden's case going to open court, you just touched on owners, Goodell, others that can be involved and investigated. What exactly can John Gruden essentially do with this now in open court to investigate this a step further?
Yeah, so I think people know the history of this, right? Gruden is alleging that his emails and his emails alone were selectively leaked. And he's alleging, I think part of his claim is that this came from the Washington Commanders investigation, and the NFL got a hold of some of these emails, and he's suing someone at NFL HQ for being behind this leak. So if that's what Gruden's alleging, that his emails and his emails alone were selectively leaked, he's going to ask some tough questions. What other emails that are maybe, as equally as offensive does the NFL have on other owners that they're not releasing? So it kind of sets off this chain of events that might open up other skeletons in others' closet. It doesn't mean that Gruden has that, but now Gruden can pursue those claims in an open forum, which obviously the NFL has to be very nervous about.
Dan, there's been talk that maybe one of those cases, with this case, could potentially even land in front of the Supreme Court. How likely is that? And is there any precedent of any cases like this in the past of the NFL involved in something like this that is at the Supreme Court level?
Yeah, this is, at least as far as I'm concerned, a case of first impression for NFL's purposes. But I mean, there's really two options, right? You appeal the case to the United States Supreme Court, and there's no guarantee the Supreme Court would take the case. That's pretty important here. And then the other option is, do the NFL at this point maybe want to consider settling with Gruden and not have this thing play out in an open forum? The interesting part is when Gruden filed this case, he had no employment opportunities, right? He had nothing. And that was a couple years ago. And now today, Gruden's in a very different part of his career. He's working for Barstool. He actually is making some income. He had a very successful YouTube channel, and he has a lot of content. So it's a little bit of a different Gruden than we saw when this case was initially filed. And maybe now Gruden is financially motivated, said, you know what? I just want the truth to come out. I don't need the money from this case because now I'm gainfully employed, but I want the truth to come out. So maybe Gruden doesn't even listen to settlement, which initially was his position in the case.
And of course, this all comes out, as we already have been talking about, and we'll be getting into later in the show today, the NFLPA collusion and other allegations around the league. Is this more of a win for Gruden or a bigger loss for the NFL?
One word, guys, drama. I don't know what is going on in the NFL, but it's just from all angles, from the PA side, from the league side, from the team side. And it's not even the start of the season yet. So this is supposed to be the slow time for NFL news. It is just exploding at all angles. But really a lot to unpack and a good time for us on the coverage side.
Totally, but to that point, could Gruden utilize this situation with the NFLPA and the allegations of collusion with the owners to sort of say the NFL right now is in disarray, and I basically got the short end of the stick because of them being in disarray.
Yeah, I mean, on the NFLPA side, I mean, you guys are going to get into it, but there was this whole decision that the NFLPA won that the NFLPA or certain people in the NFLPA were alleged was buried, that the owners didn't want the players to know about it. And so now it's somewhat of a similar story, right? Why did this email and this email alone and Gruden's emails get leaked and these other emails, stayed hidden, right? That's essentially the claim here. And the NFL is going to have to answer some really tough questions about their chain of command, how emails are leaked, who is in possession of these skeletons in the closet. And that can also pertain to the NFLPA side. So, yeah, to your point, these two cases are connected. And to the extent, Roger Goodell is the commissioner serving over both the league during, the NFLPA claim and obviously the Gruden claim, I think it's pretty important. And obviously, again, going back to Gruden, for the arbitration case, Goodell would serve as the judge, jury, and executioner. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to have, in theory, a third party, an actual courthouse and actual judges that aren't employed by the NFL making those decisions. And I think that's probably the fear of the NFL, that the truth comes out in a way that they can't control.
On the final 30 seconds we have with you, it sounds like there's a lot that still will happen here. You've mentioned so many different components. What do we expect to happen next?
Man, yeah, I would have a hard time seeing Gruden just settling this case, right? And if he's refusing to settle, really the only other option is an attempt by the NFL to go to the United States Supreme Court. I expect them to try that route. It's not to say that the Supreme Court will accept it or that they'll be successful, but I do expect at least some petition to go to the United States Supreme Court, which, if you're a sports law nerd like myself, is pretty exciting.
That is pretty exciting indeed. Sports and entertainment attorney Dan Luss, thank you so much, Dan, for joining us. And next, everyone on Front Office Sports Today, James Cook is back at Bills practice. This is he's trying to get a new contract. We're talking to his agent next. Don't go anywhere.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
We don't care where you were drafted. You outperform somebody, you're going to be on that football field. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances where you draft a quarterback number 3 overall. Yeah, they're going to try him out for the next 3 to 4 years, even if he's not as good as anybody on that roster. But from Shadur's perspective, that's probably the case. Tyler Huntley, Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of names on that list, not a lot of good names on that list, so he can earn a job on this football team.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Joey Ohtani's only seen him 7 times, 7 at-bats. He's got a home run against him. I've been pretty good at jumping in and out with Ohtani. I don't take him to hit a home run every day. The odds are good enough tonight, Scott, at plus 230 to entice me. I've got a bet on Ohtani's season home run prop at 43.5, which, he's nearly there.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He was the first of the wide receivers selected. For some reason, he didn't get the same kind of publicity some other guys in the past have gotten, but I don't get it because I look at the scenario, I look at the talent, and I say he's everything you're going to want here. In PPR leagues, I think he's going to approach 100 catches this year as a rookie, and that's going to blow people's minds, but I think he's going to be that good.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington. I'm Baker Machado. Well, Bills running back James Cook was back at practice on Tuesday. This as he's looking for a new contract with his team. Plus, who should lead the NFL Players Union, as a lot of people are saying a former player should actually be leading the union. So for that and so much more, let's dive into this with Zach Hiller, sports agent over at LAA Sports and Entertainment. Zach, thank you so much for joining us. We got to start first with your client, James Cook. He was, of course, back at practice today. Can you give us any updates on this contract situation with the Bills?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like Coach McDermott, said this morning, he expected James at practice. James is at practice. He said there had been, some good conversations. So, as far as what's transpired, he's at practice right now. Practice is ongoing. So, that's as far as I know. And that's as far as I can really get into right this second, but he's definitely on the practice field.
Yeah, as an agent, of course, you can't share all the details with us, but I am curious, what's typically been the delay in this situation, or maybe is there a consistent delay that you notice across contract discussions with clients?
I wouldn't call it a delay. I think, there's the business side that, has to be taken care of. And sometimes it can take some time to, make sure that it works for everybody, right?
Zach, last question on James Cook here. Are you confident that you'll be able to get a deal? Will he be staying with the Bills? Are you confident about that?
I'm confident that the Bills understand his value to the organization on and off the field. Obviously, they drafted him. They've watched him grow into the player and person that he is, and I feel that they definitely value him and expect him to be with the Bills for a very long time. So that's how I feel about the situation.
All right, let's shift over to the NFLPA because they have named David White as the interim executive director following the resignation of Lloyd Howell Jr. There's been so much that's come out around the NFLPA, including collusion talks. As an agent, though, when you hear these things from the Players Association that's supposed to help players, protect players, what do you take away from all of these details that we've had come out as of recent?
Yeah, I think, again, obviously what transpired, it's not great. It's not a great look for the NFL Players Association. They're supposed to be leading, the players. And, it starts from the top like anything else, right? You need the executive director, essentially the quarterback, the team, right? But obviously you need a great team as well, but you need somebody at the top that represents, I think, what the players want and has the players' best interest. Again, right, you asked me about James's contract negotiation, right? There's a CBA, there's a collective bargaining agreement, which, is the responsibility of the NFL Players Association to negotiate with the NFL owners. And that kind of, boils down to what type of leverage players have individually, right? So, sometimes when these negotiations take a while, the teams aren't necessarily the fault because they have certain leverages that was provided to them in another negotiation, which was the collective bargaining agreement. So it's sometimes, players have to recognize that you have a union who's supposed to fight for you, and then they put in certain, clauses and whatnot into the collective bargaining agreement, which helps all players as a whole. So when the teams are, applying leverage that's been given to them, the only place that you can look is at the NFL Players Association. So right now, when clearly what transpired with the past executive director, I think it's time for a shakeup in the NFL Players Association. I really do.
There's concerns, Zach, around the leadership of the NFLPA. There's concerns around allegations of collusion to prevent players from getting guaranteed contracts. How did the NFLPA get to this point? Because when you look at it compared to other leagues, it feels like it's one of the weaker player associations in that regards of truly protecting the players. Where are the shortcomings, in your opinion?
Look, the shortcomings are in the fact that NFL players' careers are very short windows, so the turnover is very quick, and I say that because the players don't even realize how everything goes back to 2011. In 2011, that was the new collective bargaining agreement, and again, that was Gene Upshaw was no longer the NFL players, the executive director. There was a new one. And DeMaurice Smith, and he negotiated the 2011 CBA. And players today have no idea about that because it was 15 years ago. Just to call out, a very important point, it was the first CBA that was 10 years long, right? So now the way I look at it, right, is, if I'm an NFL owner, right, I'm a billionaire. Obviously, I have very smart people working for me, right? would I agree to a contract that locks me in for 10 years unless I knew for a fact that it was exactly the way I wanted it? You know what I'm saying? Like, the NFL Players Association should have been sitting there saying, wait a second, we've never done a 10-year CBA. Why all of a sudden do the owners want a 10-year CBA? I mean, that should have just been a clear, red flag. But again, right, like the players today don't know anything about this because they were teenagers when, when this was going on. It's interesting, though, because I think somebody that really could come out and speak about this, there's two people in particular that I think should be really talking a lot about the NFL Players Association, who should be the next executive director, are Cam Newton and Von Miller. So obviously Cam Newton has a podcast. He's no longer in the NFL, but he was the first overall pick the first year of the new CBA, which was the new rookie wage system. So the owners actually took $50 million from Cam Newton. So the year before, Sam Bradford had a $75 million contract. Cam Newton had a $22 million contract. Right. So Cam lost $50 million just because, right? So and I don't think he's ever commented on that. And I'd love to hear what he had to say. And then number two would be Von Miller, because Von Miller was a second pick. So he probably lost $45 million. He's still currently playing. So that's somebody that could speak up on the idea that hey, yeah, we need the right leadership leading us as players. So I would love to see both of their opinions on, the NFL Player Association and, who they think would be, potential candidates for the executive director position. And if they agree that a player should be in that seat. So
Cam Newton, Von Miller calling on you. I like
that. That would be really interesting, especially if they get it. They got the Zach Hiller endorsement, it sounds like.
I mean, look, Cam made a ton of money, but someone should ask him, hey, look, if you could have $50 million more, would you like it? He earned it, right? He performed it. He performed in college just like Sam Bradford did, right? And then he got drafted first overall, except the only difference was he was under this new CBA. The other guy wasn't. $50 million gone.
We'll have to get him on the show to talk about it.
Yeah,
clearly.
Indeed. Zach, we're going to have to end it there. We're out of time, but thank you so much, Zach. All right, in Texas opens up the preseason #1 in college football in the new poll. We'll go through the rest of it next on Front Office Sports Today.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
At a 30 teams game, only 10 have a winning record against left-handed pitchers. 10-19, and there's one team that's 12-12.
See, I
think it's the Yankees.
Yeah. See, I didn't know the exact number, Scott, but I would have, I knew where you were going with this. In which there's just not as many left-handed hitters. They're not as good against them.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You have to imagine it'll be Rory and Tommy. So that is just such a strong foursomes pairing. And then I look over here at the Americans. I'm like, golly, if Patrick Cantlay, they just need him to make the team because you got Scotty and Russell. If Xander's going out, you have to him and Pat have been so good in the foursomes. Bryson's gonna have to play. Who's he gonna play with?
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. Well, Renee, for the very first time ever, the Texas Longhorns are opening up the season #1 in the AP Top 25 poll. They edged out Penn State by just 5 points. That is the closest it's ever been in a preseason vote since 1998. So to dive more into this poll, let's bring in FOS producer Mariah Elizondo. Mariah, good to have you here. So let's talk the top 10. Any big surprises here?
Well, I mean, there's so many big surprises. So many people, so many teams from the Big Ten. So many teams that I wouldn't even expect to be in this AP poll, or that are even below than other teams. There's SMU. I wouldn't even expect them to be in that kind of place. Yes, they did lose to Penn State, but there's also teams like Boise State, Clemson. They're in the top 4. I would have never expected them to be in the top 4. And let's talk about Ohio State. Number 3 over Texas. I mean, I'm a Penn State fan, but still, Penn State's always going to be number 2. Ohio State's always going to be number 1.
Okay.
Well, especially given the fact that Ohio State is favored against Texas.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, as someone that's been a part of preseason polls, it's I don't think it's valid when you look at just like they're comparing it to where you finished last season, your transfers, other roster moves that have happened. As someone that is a rising Penn State senior yourself, looking at Penn State as the number 2 team in this top 25 poll, I'm curious to know what it's like from the student perspective in terms of getting tickets, being able to get to games, because it should be an exciting time for you guys and being ready for the season. What is that ticket process like as a student?
Well, I am from Florida originally, and I assumed going on my Florida tours that it'd be the same as Florida State, where your tickets are free for students for any game that you go to. But when you go to Penn State, as such as a competitive school like Ohio State, they initiated a lottery system when I entered my junior year. So however high you are in your year, as you're a senior, junior, graduate, sophomore, freshman, that places you on where, if you're going to be receiving a ticket for the student season. And you're paying for all the tickets. And you can resell the tickets because they're offering these tickets to all satellite campuses. And Penn State has 14. That's a lot.
Interesting. Okay, so given the fact that Penn State is starting the season number 2, are you, as a Penn State student, expecting them to win the entire thing? What's sort of the vibe at the school going into this season?
I mean, Penn State's the greatest college sports show, Whiteout. We're now having Oregon play for our Whiteout game, and we've never seen that kind of competition in a Whiteout game. It's normally the lowest team in the conference that you're going to see at a Whiteout game, and it's a night game too. Everyone's going to be showing up, and as far as the entire season for Penn State, we're always coming out number 2. I just want to see Drew Aller be able to put the ball in the hands of our football players and then be able to take it down to the touchdown.
I definitely don't have high expectations for Penn State. Yeah. Let's find a way, but
no one does.
But we have high expectations for her.
And being able to watch all the games, Mariah.
Yes, indeed. Our producer, Mariah Elizondo. Mariah, thank you so much for your insights, and thank you for all the work that you've done on Front Office Sports today as well. And with that, let's go see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Well, Renee, Netflix has released the official trailer for their Dallas Cowboys documentary, America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys. This follows the team's 1990s dynasty with Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Deion Sanders, Jimmy Johnson, and Jerry Jones, of course. The doc, which drops on August 19th, focuses on Jones buying the franchise in 1989 and how the team became the most valuable franchise in the world. Now, Netflix, because I'm very special, has given me the first couple episodes of this, and I have to say it's actually terrific. It's really, really good, but it does paint this character of what Jerry Jones is, that he loves the drama, he loves people talking about them nonstop, and that has led to them becoming America's team. Whether or not they win Super Bowls or not, they're still the most talked about franchise.
So apparently we're the angel and devil on the shoulder, because I will never say anything is terrific about the Cowboys, and especially with a doc about the Super Bowls they won back in the 90s. That's the only thing they've done since 96. True. They haven't been back to the Super Bowl. They haven't even been past the divisional round, I should say. And this is so timely, and that's what drives me crazy. You happen to drop a Netflix documentary about the glory days of the Cowboys during training camp, when you're yet again in the midst of a hold-in with a player. Yet again, we're seeing Jerry Jones in the forefront of controversial comments. Now it's Micah Parsons. We've seen him over the years, from pictures to videos to comments. To me, this is a PR move, without a doubt. He's already been called for from analysts and fans to be fired. And now here comes Jerry Jones, like, look at all the great things I did in Dallas. Those days are over. You are no longer America's team, but enjoy the documentary, I guess.
Look, it now makes the 90s Dallas Cowboys the best reality show now on television.
They've always been.
Yes.
That's what Jerry
Yes.
Jones wants. He wants him to be
Yes.
the drama, the spectacle. That's why he continues to always have these very spicy comments and call people out. He's all for the drama. He's not. He needs to be done though. No,
By the way,
get out the front office.
How they shot it, by the way,
TV.
it's very Western. It's very cool.
You're
You definitely
loving
gotta love
it.
All right, guys,
Oh,
that's going to
boy.
do it for this edition of the show. Renee and I will be back tomorrow. We'll see you later. Bye.